Do that if you want to be a successful project manager. My name is Guilherme, and I help professionals to become successful project managers. The topic I'm going to discuss today is a very important thing that you really need to do if you want to be a successful project manager. But before I start, make sure you follow me for more content and also like this video so it can get to more people and more people can start to learn project management. So what do you need to know or what do you need to do to be a successful project manager? Well, the first thing that you need to do to be a successful project manager is called be proactive. Of course, this is completely related with your mindset. And again, I'm going to repeat that because nowadays you see mindset everywhere. Everyone is talking about mindset. But I do not want to intend when I mean mindset here, I'm not talking about visualization exercises or anything like that. That's why when I talk about mindset, the first thing I talk about is being proactive. Why? Because the mindset, being proactive, that's something very difficult to be taught. For example, if you want, I have a training where I can teach you very easy how to create a WBS. I can do that like in an afternoon to teach you the basics of finance, how business case work. So all those things, they're hard skills. And all those things, they can be taught fairly easy. But the mindset itself, the being proactive part, that's a difficult part. And that's a part that will influence everything else that you do. For example, being proactive. If you are not proactive, I cannot even teach you the hard skills that you need to learn. Why? Because you're not going to be open for that. You are not going to put effort in learning that. For example, a few years ago, I had a junior engineer in my team. And of course, he was new in the company, so I was mentoring him because I wanted him to be successful. And of course, as part of my team, him being successful, I also was setting myself for it to be successful. And I would give him like mentoring sessions and also talking about hard skills, but also talking about soft skills. And some of the stuff that he had to learn was about the product itself, because in the end he had to learn a bit of the bill of material of the product, what we call BOM. So also he would be able to work properly with the timeline, because if you understand the bill of material, it makes easier to build a work breakdown structure and make easier to connect everything in your timeline. But also it would help him to track costs for the project, to track the business case and everything else, because everything around product, in this case was a physical product, goes around of a bill of material. So I'll tell him, oh, you need to study the bill of material. The bill of material was, 20 or 25 components. You need to understand which is each component, what's the supplier for each component, and at some point that it comes to you naturally. And he would say, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then he would do that, say, are you doing that? Yes, everything is under control. Yes, I know everything. And then I would ask him 2 questions about the bill of material items, the status. And I was not really being picky, because of course you can imagine from 20, 25 items, I could select the least important one because that was probably the easiest one to forget and he would not know it. But I would go there for the main component. That was a sub-assembly that would get from different supplier. But that sub-assembly also involved another supply chain, because we had to get some components from one from another supplier, one component from a customer. Everything had to be there in this third-part supplier at the same time. So they would assemble everything, they would send us a piece of our final product at a sub-assembly ready for our assembly line. And I would ask him about the status of the item, and he would simply, I don't know. And I'll ask him, but you told me that you're checking these. And he was like, yeah, but I think I forgot. I need to check with someone else. And he was looking, that person that they did not told me anything about that, and I'm assuming it's okay. And I was telling him, we are product managers. We should not make assumptions. We need to get facts. That's our goal here. Because we can work with facts. And if we have a problem, we can work to solve it. If we have a risk, we can work to solve it. But if you assume that everything is okay, there's not much that you can do. And sooner or later, something will blow in your face. And I will tell him that. And he was not able to really to take these steps. And I'm not talking about that he was not doing that in 1 week or 2 weeks in 1 month. I'm talking about 7 months that he was not still able to figure out the main component of our product. And part of the reason why is that is because what I mentioned, to be proactive. But I'm not trying to bring this for a very philosophical item, because we can talk about Napoleon Hill, or we can talk about the 7 habits of highly effective people. We can talk about even the philosophy of the Stoics, of how everything is embedded there, how it makes sense. But in this case, being proactive, what does that mean? Well, you need to take part of your time and you need to study the bill of material. And what I mean, study the bill of material, I'm not saying like study for a test, memorize everything without any value and just say yeah, or no. I'm saying really study, understand that. And what does it take to understand something as a bill of material of a product? Well, you open the design, you look for the design, you look how the component or how the part looks like. You look how those things fit together. If you're looking for assembly line, how do we assemble those things? Then you look, okay, who is the supplier for that item? Then you open a code there. Then you read, oh, the supplier does this, does that. The supplier located, I don't know, in Italy, in Germany, or in Asia. What's the price of the component? What's included in the price and what's not? And this is not something that you can do at once, because you're not going to remember if you do it at once. That's something that requires you the discipline and the proactiveness to do that often. And in those discussions with him, he would say, yeah, but how do you know everything? Well, I know everything because I've been studying this for months. It's not like I'm a genius and I know everything about the product. Actually, I was fairly new in the company. At this point, I was working in the company for a bit more than 1 year. And for me, it was a completely new business, a completely new product. How did I learn? Well, I would take time and say, I want to understand this product. Then I would look for the design. I would go ask my lead designs, hey, do you have a few minutes here? Can you explain some things for me? Because I cannot get it how it works. And of course, people would help me. And I even, in this process of trying to make him learn, I organized these sessions with the designers, the same thing I did for myself, I did for him, say, hey, have a couple of sessions with him. And he's open here to learn. And of course, he's going to explain, and you ask questions and you have a discussion like a normal person. But instead of using the time, he was just opening it and saying, yeah, now I know it. And never go back. What happened? When people do that, does not work. Because first, it's impossible that you are going to learn a completely new product like that if you do like in 1 hour, in 1 day, and that's it. Okay, I cannot say impossible because you might be a genius and you might learn everything in 1 hour about a product. I cannot do that, and most of people cannot do that. Then if you can do that, you are a genius, congratulations, well done. But if you are a normal person like me, you need time so the information will sink in, and you need effort. And from where the effort will come from? From your proactiveness. You need to take the step. Book some time in your agenda, say, I'm going to look for the bill of material. And at some point in this product, I printed out the bill of material, and I was like, okay, I need to work on my business case. Where is my bill of material? What do I need to have in my business case? And I will check one by one. And I had to do it several times before I remembered. I would check the supplier several times before I remembered. But what happened after 4 months that I was doing that once, twice, or 3 times a week even? Well, after 4 months, I would know all the components. I would know all the suppliers, all the details. I would have made some for some of the products. I would remember even the price there, minimum order quantities, how the supply chain needs to go, how the timeline I do have there, what the step by step the supplier need to do, what's the impact in my production line, and that gave me a huge leverage because most of the people they do not want to make this effort. So they do not understand the assembly line in all those details. They do not understand the product in all those details. They do not understand the business case in those details. And of course, the lead designer or any of the design engineers, they would understand the product much better than I. But I was the only one who had this fully complete overview here about at least high level technical details on the product, process, assembly line, supply chain, timeline, business case, risks, what the customer needed, what we would get from the customer. And with that, I could add a lot of value for the project and a lot of value for the company. That was, of course, why, like in this 6 week I was working that company, the job, I was already presenting for the customer European leadership how we would support the project. And after even the 6 week, that was probably my second or third meeting with the customer, a lot of people tell me, I'm surprised because you have been here for 5 or 6 weeks and you already know and you already talk as you have been doing that for years. Why? Effort, proactiveness. I was making a step every day. Like instead of going there and say, oh, I don't know what to do, just sit and try to figure something else, or instead just jumping in the first thing that would appear in front of me, I would organize my agenda, be proactive. Okay, I'm going to study the bill of material here. I'm going to study my business case here. And I would really invest time there. I would say spend time, but that's not the right word. It's really invest time because this really pays off. And this junior engineer, he was never able to do it because he was always trying to take a shortcut. Instead of putting the effort to learn something, he was trying to, I'm going to ask someone else what needs to be done or what's the status. What happened? In 1 week or 2 weeks or even one day, sometimes everything might change in the project, then you are lost. And like if you're the project manager, you cannot depend on people to understand what needs to be done there. And when I'm saying that does not mean you should not discuss with your team what needs to be done there. But you need to have this overview of the project and you need to understand in which direction you need to steer your team. Otherwise, it does not work. And how does it relate with the proactiveness? It's not only about putting the effort there to learn this in the day-to-day, but like if you do not have this proactiveness to learn, no one can teach you because you are not open there. Then it gets really difficult because simply no one can teach you. Say, I want that when I talk about that works for everything else. If you go, for example, I want to study math, and you enter to a math class, but you don't want to learn with the teacher or the professor, whoever is teaching, you're not going to learn. So this is something that depends fully on you, fully in your mind. And depending how you handle this, it will affect everything else. Your learning, your growth, your promotions, your results of the projects, your results of the team, and everything else. So the first thing that you need to have is this being proactive in it. Be proactive. Proactiveness mindset. That's what you need. And that's something that you can work on. That's something that only depends on you. Because a lot of things in life will not depend on us. How other people feel, what other people say, how your boss will see you does not depend entirely on you. He might like it or he might not like you. How the customer will see you, if your project will succeed or not. There's a lot of things outside of your control, so that does not fully depend on you. You can have a project that fails even though you did everything that you could and you are exceptional project manager. A project can fail, that's it. So there's a lot of things in our lives that are outside of our control. But be proactive, your proactiveness, that's something that's 100% of under control, because you can decide to take the action. You can decide to take this action intentionally. And so this is very important. And when I talk about being proactive, so there's a lot of different ways you can see it, a lot of different parts. You can look for different parts of that, how you can do this and how you can do that. What I'm going to give you here, it's a very practical tip from something that it's like the 80-20 if you want to succeed in your project. And what's that? It might seem very, very, very simple and very stupid, but it's checking items. What do I mean by checking? Well, few years ago I was working, that was my first project as a project manager. Then you can imagine, I was really motivated. I went to learn. Then I got the project there, and I'm saying I'm going to start to study the scope of the project. Then I start to read documentation, and someone say, at this time was engineering, procurement, construction project. Then they say, you need to buy this panel here. Then I was like, this was for a substation. Then I had to buy a supply panel that would provide, it's not the right word, but kind of a plug, like an outlet that as you have at home to connect other stuff, to provide energy for other equipment in the substation. And I was questioning, like, why do we need to do that? Because that was the only panel for this specific area that we were providing, and it sounded strange, based on, of course, my experience. And people say, but that's what the customer wants. That's the scope. You need to do it. Then I start to look for the documentation, start to look for the different designs, compare, and say, those designs, they are not matching. Something is wrong here. Well, then I say, what's the better way to do it and to check it? Go to the field, right? Go to the gemba, what the Japanese in the link they call gemba. That's going to the real place where the real work happens. Then, of course, I went to the customer. I went to visit the power substation there. And I start to look for the panels, printed out all my designs, because of course I do not remember everything by heart. Then I start to check, okay, this is different, this is different, this is different. And then of course took some pictures, and then I decided to talk with the customer, say, hey, here you're saying that needs to be this, and that, and this extra panel here, but I don't think this is right. And someone in the customer just told, no, but that's what they told us, it's in the design. I say, hey, I was there in the field. Here are the pictures, I checked. You already have this panel there. And I can tell you even more. If you want an additional panel, you don't have space for that. Here are the pictures. You can see by yourself. And then he was like, you're right. We don't need it. And it ended up that we did not supply that. And for my project was an excellent business case, because I believe at the time we had in the budget that we would have to buy this panel for about $5,000, and the actual cost of this was $15,000. Then I was losing money selling this panel. Then I was very happy to take it out from my scope. The customer was happy because, of course, that's something else that they do not need to pay for us, even though we were selling with a loss in this specific item, the WBS. The customer did not know, right? And then in the end, we did not provide the panel, and we did other changing the scope and so on. But what's the importance of the situation? The checking part. For this, that means no assumptions. And this is a technical example, of course, I did. I checked the design, and then I went to the field to check what was in the field and compare with the design to see if there was any difference and so on. But what other situations you can use that? Well, simplest thing, no assumptions. You see that one of the items that a lot of projects fail because of miscommunications. And one of a big cause for the miscommunications, because someone says something and the other person understands something differently. So what do you do if you want to check it? Well, if you are in a meeting, and I do it very often, Say someone say something that happened in a meeting that I did this afternoon. Someone says, this, and that, and I say, okay, let me see if I understand this right. Then I repeat what I understood from the information I got, and I ask the confirmation. That's why I understood that we need to do this, and that. Is that correct? For example, and the people say, no, 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 you did not get it right. That's what I mean, blah, 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 blah. And that's how it works. You can do that for everything. You can check your bill of material to see if it's right. You can check if the informations in the system of the company are right. You can check if the what the people are telling you, you are getting the right information. Because when I say it, it's important that you understand that it's not that people are trying to miscommunicate with you, but a lot of times that happens. It can be several reasons for the miscommunication, because they say in a way you understand in another. That can part of that can be cultural difference if you are working in an international environment. It can be also the language. A lot of times I'm working with the teams, and none of the team member the first language of none of the team members is English, including my own. I guess you can of course notice by my English that my first language is not English. So this type of confirmation it's important, depending like if you're on a call, and sometimes I rephrase something and ask people to confirm, and they reply, and they're still not clear. I write it down. And I show my screen. This is what you mean. Is that correct? My understanding is correct. Is it understandable for everybody? Let's repeat it. Because then you get to an understanding. So that avoid this no assumption and confirmation and checking. Avoid a lot of things. For example, I can give you another example in a project that happened with me probably 4 months ago. It's semiconductor industry. Then there's what we call a wafer. Basically, it looks like a wafer, and there's small pieces that there are electronics on it. Then, of course, each of those wafers has a number of electronics on it, and that, of course, you separate each piece and you sell it as a chip, as a semiconductor, whatever you want to call it. And I was checking the system, because what I always do, I always check stuff to confirm it. And here, it's part of your routine, because you're going to learn it. Then I end up saying, hey, my nominal number of dies, that's how we call a piece of the semiconductor in the wafer, it should be 26,000. But in the system is 21,000. Then I go to my engineering team and say, which one is the correct one? And they say, oh, the correct one is 26,000. Then I take a print screen saying, that's what we have in our system. That's used to make calculations for code and for everything else. And say, okay, then let's fix it and let's solve it. That's something very simple. But that's also show to the team that you are putting the right effort there. Show to the team that you are trying to put your best effort to make sure that the project is succeeding. And that's something I can tell you. Of course, I'm always checking stuff. Then I do those checkings in the system just to see if the information is correct. I check bill of materials. I do the checking, my business case, reviewing all the information there time to time. I check my timelines. I check my designs. And I do all those things. Does not mean that every time I'm going to find something. Probably not. 85% of the time, everything is okay. Gladly. Otherwise, I would go crazy. But 85 of the times, things are okay. And sometimes I think things are wrong. Then I keep checking. I look for designs, look for different ways. Then I learn that everything's fine. But doing this checking there, it helps me to learn the system of the company. It helps me to learn the details on my business case. It helps me to learn the details on my product. It helps me to ask better questions to my team members. It helps me to build a better vision for my project and what we need to achieve. So even in the times that everything is fine, I'm still gaining a lot of knowledge. That means I'm putting myself a step forward. Because when the next project will come, I'll have a lot of brain connections, because every time you're doing those things in different ways, you look for different problems, different perspectives, you turn things upside down, your brain is building different connections there. So for the new project, all those big different connections that are going to be there, then I can do checks much faster. I can ask much better questions during a team meeting. And again, I can always ask again if someone say, "Oh, we have a problem in the testing," and they explain that the problem is failing, blah 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 blah. Okay, what should we do next? And they explain, we need to do a drift analysis and so on. This, okay, I'm not a technical specialist. I'm not a specialist on semiconductors. I do not understand the details on technically. Even though I'm an electrical engineer, that was not my specialization, even during my university degree. So I have a very, very high level understanding, but I cannot understand the technicalities. So I need to trust my team. But I need to make sure that I understand what they're doing, and I need to make sure that everyone gets the same level of information. So I'm always asking those questions. Let me rephrase it to see if I understood it right. Then I say things as I understood it, and I ask people to confirm my understanding is correct. Do you agree with me? So you said this, or we are missing something here? And again, a lot of the times people just confirm, your understanding is correct. But there's also sometimes they're saying, no, that's not what I mean. And then we correct the direction for the entire team. So this part of being proactiveness, that's checking information, confirming the information, make sure there's no assumptions there. And this is so important. I've been working in one of the consulting jobs. I'm doing another type of consulting job that there was that they were struggling with a project, and they called me and say, we need someone with more experience because we have here a project manager that he's still developing. So all the project management skills, they're not there on him because he is still a junior one. The department of the company say, we also do not have the project management skills, and we have a big challenge here in a project, and we are struggling to succeed. And then since 2 or 3 weeks, I'm doing some consulting with the junior project manager, and of course having some reflections with the department manager to see if that's the direction we are going. I think that's how we need this report and so on. And one of the first things, the first call I had with him, probably I had 3 or 4 or 5 at this stage, and he was talking about the project, a lot of things going on, a lot of confusion. And then he told me about the critical path, that was some tooling, and I asked him, okay, what's the status of the tooling? And he mentioned, I think there is everything okay. Then I said, what do you mean you think everything is okay? We are project managers. We are looking for facts here. As a project manager, you need to be in the driver's seat. So if you're in the driver's seat, you need to know you turn right or you turn left. You cannot go forward. You cannot try to go straight. Otherwise, you're going to be out of the highway or out of the cliff. And he is like, actually, I'm not sure. I'm assuming everything is okay, but someone else told me that he thinks everything is okay. Then the first thing I told him, this is your critical path. There is no assumptions here. You need to go and check item by item. Tooling. Do you have a supplier? Yes or no. Do you have a PO? Yes or no. The lead time is counting for the supplier? Yes or no. And do that for all your tooling. In this case, was quite a big project, more than 100 tools to be purchased there. But that's what I told him. And this is, again, and of course, I'm also teaching him, I taught him like in one session how to create a WBS to be able to manage something like that. We are working to prepare a timeline, how to be able to make a big project like that. But this part of being proactive, it's much more difficult to teach there. Because that already come up in another session that I think this is okay. I say, hey, remember, I never say I think. It's yes or no. No assumptions. If you do not know, that's okay, but check it. That's how it needs to work. So when you talk about being proactive, it's it's broad, and if you want to take an action today that can really make a difference, and if you do that consistently, I can guarantee you that will make a big difference in your career, in your life. It's like no assumptions. No assumptions. You need to check everything. Check and confirm everything. Sometimes that means that you're going to ask a question more than once from a person. Yes. Because also, as you're going to find out if you do that, sometimes your understanding was not correct the first time. So you need to take those steps. And remember, that only depends on yourself. So you don't need any technical knowledge to check something. Of course, what you need is to learn how you can gain information in the organization. And different organizations can change this a lot, because if you are working in an organization that's a bit more mature, you can have, for example, a PLM, product life management system, where you can have a lot of information, about suppliers, a lot of information about different products, how they're correlating in the system. And that if your organization has something like that, beautiful, because you can learn a lot from there. And that means that you can learn a lot, you can do a lot of checks, and you can add a lot of value just learning how to use the system. And a lot of those times, like, this is not rocket science. So maybe you can get information from SAP or from Oracle. By the way, those are enterprise resource management. It's a system that helps the entire to manage the entire organization. So if your organization have those systems, those are great source of knowledge for you. So you can build on and everything there. Because for the organizations that they don't have anything, it's much more difficult, because you need to get scattered information here and there, or you need to keep asking people. But if you have good systems in place, that you don't need to keep asking people, that makes even better your job of checking and confirming stuff. Of course, you are going to ask less because the systems are in place, but you always need the content. And that's why, of course, if you are working a project, that's why you usually have team meetings there. To make sure that in those discussions, you also align everything with your customers. So remember, what the first thing that you need to be a successful project manager, be proactive there. That only depends on you. You don't need to ask anyone to be proactive. You don't need to ask anyone to take initiative. And as part of being proactive, something very important and very valuable that you can do there is making sure that you make no assumptions. You check and you confirm all the information. That will help you to better understand how your company works. That will better understand you how your product works. That will better may help you to understand how your timeline works, how your business case works, help you to identify risks, help you to identify issues, and help you to build a common vision to your project, to your team, and to achieve a success in the end there. Again, don't forget to like this video so it can get to more people and more people can learn project management. Also, make sure you share with people. If you have someone in your network there, say, hey, those people also like project management, they need to learn project management, and what I see here, it's valuable. Make sure you share with them so also they can progress there. And follow me, of course, for more content. And also on YouTube, but also on my Instagram page, because on Instagram I have a Q&A box that's open every day, and you can ask questions in how to and I'm there to support you to develop your project management career. Thank you, and see you around. Bye.